How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to be giving you a Mistweaver guide. Mistweaver got buffed pretty big in the most recent-ish patch. Most notably, it got like a couple like talent tweaks that have kind of like increased the damage that it deals. Um, and then the damage that it deals also allows you to get healing from your ancient teachings. So overall, it's just much more powerful. It helped an issue which has been a big issue for a long time, and a lot of healers have. And it's basically, if you're not doing damage, it feels like you're kind of useless, especially when you're fighting healers who can do damage. This is the outline that I'm going to be using for my Mistweaver guys. If you want to like kind of jump ahead and whatnot, you're not interested in all of it, feel free to do so. Pros and cons of Mistweaver. So Mistweaver for me, it's an interesting one, and it definitely does have like some flaws. I would say like its cons are it's still like pretty susceptible to CC. Not as bad as Preservation, but when teams kind of like are able to play on top of you, the game gets really awkward because a lot of the times you kind of like you want to have like your port down behind a pillar, and then you like want to kind of like be able to play off your port a little bit. So if you get stunned, you could kind of port safely out of LOS and line of sight the stun. Or if you get swapped to, you could do the same thing. But what makes it awkward is like when people kind of push on top of you, and start going for that CC, then you kind of have to like fall back to where you're on top of your port, in which case you get swapped to, or if you get stunned, you can't actually use the port to LOS, so it gets kind of awkward in that regard. And you're obviously still susceptible to like interrupts. You don't cast a lot with the hybrid build, which I think is personally the better build, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here, but I would say the biggest fallback you have on Mistweaver is being crowd controlled and being interrupted. You definitely have some tools to try to prevent, both of those, but it's still difficult nonetheless. I'll talk like about some of the comps and stuff that makes it difficult. The pros of Mistweaver are you're very bursty. You actually, in my opinion, have the best burst damage in the game, better than Preservation. Maybe not better than Tip the Scales on Preservation. I think Tip the Scales will probably still beat you in terms of like the burst they could do, but that's a 2-minute CD, and as a Mistweaver, you can do like 1 million hits like every few seconds. So like for example, Thunder Focus D here, and then this is obviously a target dummy, but that's 1 million on three targets, 1 million 3 targets, 1 million 3 targets. So you could kind of do it like much more frequently and much more easier. The more targets you hit, the more healing you do, based on the fact that the damage also does healing because of Ancient Teachings. Even though you're not spec'd into Jadefire Teachings, you still have Ancient Teachings baseline. And then also, Mistweaver has some of like the best instant CC in the game. You call it like Snap CC. Like you're just able to go in, like get an in cap on someone, get a sweep on someone. If you want to play the sleep talent, you can. So it could be a pretty dangerous combo. You're pretty mobile. I think one of the biggest pros to Mistweaver is the Zen Sphere. If you have the sphere up on, an enemy, it just allows your teammates to do 10% more damage to them, and they deal 3% less damage, so definitely really something nice to keep up on, the heavy hitters. On top of that, you have the 10%, but if you just do, like, any damage ability, you get the 5% from Mystic Touch as well. So when you play with physical damage, you do 15% more, and just all damage is 10% more. So definitely 2 debuffs that you want to keep up for sure. Add-ons, we'll go ahead and go over, the list of add-ons that I use, and then I'll show you, my WeakAuras. This one was from Big Mex's Discord. It fixed some of the add-ons that didn't work in this expansion from previous expansions. Daily Boss Mods is irrelevant, don't worry about that. Advanced Interface is kind of relevant. Better Blizz Plates is something I use in conjunction with my arrow over friendly nameplates. At any time in my stream, you could exclamation arrow, and I show you how to set that up with a different YouTube video. Big debuff shows the debuffs bigger over here on your raid frames. Details is like how I kind of track everything with this. Diminish shows me the DRs of my teammates and myself, so I know if I'm coming off DR. Frame sort is what I use to keep myself at the bottom of the frames, really handy for shuffle. Nameplate buffs is my nameplate add-on that I use. You could use better Blizz Plates. I've always used nameplate buffs. Omni Bar tracks enemy CDs. Omni CD tracks friendly CDs. S Arena updated 2 by Sammers. Trophy GCD is just for you guys, and obviously WeakAuras. I'll go over my WeakAuras real quick, or which ones I think are like the important ones. Obviously, I have quite a bit of them. Let me see here. Ancient Teachings. This one's not really that important, but I'll just in case you want to see it. I don't even spec into this most of the time, so it's only like when you're playing the Crackle build. Arena friendly markers. Chi-Ji. This is kind of a nice one, actually. But unfortunately, like, the Chi-Ji, like, overlaps a lot with, like, your TF Serenities. Chi-Ji used. I kind of like knowing when I have, like, the big healing here. This one is from a package of... I believe it's from a package of, WeakAuras, and I just kind of, like, removed this one. So if you download this, and it's a lot more than what you're seeing here, it's because I removed it and then added a smaller amount. But this kind of just shows you, like, whenever you press Thunder Focus T, like, which Ts you have available. Unfortunately, Thunder Focus T with TF Serenity and TF Plenty have just been bugged this expansion. So, for example, like, you know, there's a good chance that, like, if I use this Vivify, it takes from here and from here, and it's not supposed to. And vice versa. Like, if I use Renewing Mist, it can take from here and here. But it didn't in this case, so, you know. It overlaps a lot. Let me see if I can get a different one. So, like, for example, I have 2 enveloping buffs here. If I press enveloping, most of the time, it will eat both of these envelopings, or 1 enveloping and 1 T. Of course, it's not going to bug when I'm showing you guys, but yeah. It does it a lot. You're not crazy. But it's kind of important to track, because if you don't track it actively, and you're kind of expecting it to do what it's supposed to, which it doesn't most of the time, it could mess with you. Teachings of the Monastery isn't really important anymore because, you know, you don't really play Mistweaver, but if you want the WeakAuras, it's right here. This one's actually pretty important because you want to make sure you're using this instant Vivify every 10 seconds. This is like one of the most important things I can tell you. It's really, really important. It's going to allow you to not have to cast as much, you know, just kind of getting in the rhythm of using this instant Vivify every 10. So a pretty nice one there. I actually have it in 3 different places because I want my eyes to always be able to see it. Like, if you notice, so, like, if I'm looking at my raid frames, it's here. If I'm looking at my action bars, I see it here. And if I'm just kind of, like, looking all over the screen, it's, you know, I see it there as well. It's that important that I have the same WeakAuras 3 times. Zen Focus T for when you have that active is pretty nice. I don't play that build too often, but we will talk about it. And then the Zen Sphere WeakAuras, this one's really, really nice. Definitely want to recommend having this one. You want to make sure that you have the defensive one up and the offensive one up. So I think that's all that's, like, pretty important for WeakAuras. Let's go ahead and go over the macros. I don't think I use anything crazy in terms of macros. Like, macros is, it's really simple stuff, man. I use Party 1, 2. I use, you know, Help Harms. I use Arena 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to kind of, like, breeze through this, but Soothing Mist, Crackling Jade macro, it's just a Help Harm. Detox Party 1, Detox Party 2, I use Arena 3. Paralysis, I use Arena 3 Grapple, so I'll go over those pretty quickly. Target player, sorry, just Dispel Self, so don't swap targets. Soothe Self, so don't swap targets. Tiger's Lust Party 1, Tiger's Lust Party 2, Tiger's Lust Self. Para 1, Para 2, Focus Para. This is one of my only Help Harms, well, one of the few I use. This is Spearhand Strike as well as Enveloping Mist on friendly and enemy. Focus Spearhand Strike, Cursor Ring of Peace because I don't like, you know, having to double click it. I don't know if you need this macro anymore, but this would allows you to swap from Revival and Renewal without having to switch on your action bar. It was like, you needed it at some point. I don't think this is true anymore, but I have it anyway. Help Harm, Soothing Mist, and Tiger Palm. I don't really use that one. This was when I was like Fist Weaving. I was trying to get used to this. Help Harm, Expel, and RSK. I randomly use Party 1 and 2 Life Cocoon. I mean, it's probably a little overkill, but I kind of like it when I'm like using kicks and stuff if I'm not targeted on my party members. I use a Focus Clash, World Marker for Transcendence, which honestly I do a really bad job with. I don't use that much. Another Help Harm here. Provoke Arena Pet 1, 2, 3. Not really that important. Well, you could try to like provoke pets to break like CC and stuff. I don't really do it too much these days, but that's kind of it. Races for Mistweaver. I only really play Horde. I've been pretty happy with Undead, mostly. I'm not going to tell you that nothing else is viable, but Undead's felt pretty good. I think Mistweaver's, like, as we talked about, struggle the most in the CC. I feel like Undead helps you kind of, you know, break free from some of that CC. If you're Alliance, I would probably recommend, like, Night Elf, because Night Elf can also help you, like, outplay some CC. And if you're Horde and you don't want to be Undead, you could potentially be Orc, because Orc is obviously never bad, being in stuns less often. I mean, I don't think Dwarf sounds that good. Dwarf is generally pretty good on a lot of characters, but I don't think Dwarf sounds that crazy. I mean, Panda for an extra CC, maybe. I'm not really feeling it, personally. Humans, obviously. Human racial lost all of its value for healers a while ago. Goblin's bad. I mean, I haven't seen this before. Okay, I was gonna say I haven't seen this before, but maybe. I think Tauren's bad, Nightborn's bad. It's probably, you know, Undead, Orc, Night Elf, and if you're afraid of Boomkins, you could go Gnome, I guess. Also gives you an extra little bit of mana, so not like no value, I guess. Stat Prios and Enchants. So from what I've been told, I think you want around like 10% haste as this hybrid spec. As the other spec, I'm not necessarily sure. I don't really play the other spec. I'll talk about it a little bit. I don't think haste is terrible. But I am a little bit lower on the verse end right now. I think on TR I have a little bit more. Yeah, this character is really low. I think on TR I have like 20-ish, low 20s in verse and a little bit less mastery, a little bit less haste. So you probably want to aim for like that. I don't want to say you're a bad target as a Mistweaver, but you're kind of evasive, and a lot of people don't like attacking you because you do have that port stun, and it makes it like a little bit awkward. So you could probably get away with like a little bit lower amount of verse, but yeah, mastery is obviously your best stat for both specs. I'll give you like a breakdown of like my most recent games, and this is as the kick build, by the way. So as the kick build, Gust and Mist is still like my #1 healing. Gust and Mist once again, my #1 healing. This is your mastery, by the way. Gust and Mist once again, #1 healing. I mean, it's just, yeah, mastery is just insane. Gust and Mist once again, #1 healing. So obviously mastery is really good. You don't really need crit, but you do play the, you do go for the 2-piece just because it's free 5% on renewing and enveloping, and it's high verse, so it's like, you know, it's not terrible. Pregog is still good for a gem. If you feel like you're constantly dying, I guess you could swap the damage reduction one in CC, but not too crazy. Obviously mastery and chance, mastery gems. I'm actually going verse mastery because I went a little bit too low on verse, but yeah. Mana on chest, mana on legs, speed, stam. Pretty standard stuff here. In terms of crafted gear, I don't want to say there's no perfect way to do it, but you can kind of do what you want. You know, just try to get to like, you know, that balanced stats where you have around 20% verse, you have around 10% haste, and, you know, the extras mastery. So you can kind of craft what you want, but for the embellishments, I use the Ascendance one. I kind of went through a couple on my monk, and Ascendance is just, I guess, the most consistent. You know, you're always going to have it up. So it feels kind of nice. And, yeah, tier gear, 2-piece. 4-piece I don't think is that crazy. You lose a lot for it, basically. In terms of the spec, there's basically, well, I'll show you the 3 specs that I run, okay? So I play, this is the hybrid spec. This is the quote-unquote Kick Weaver. The main difference here is that instead of Jadefire and Crackle, and I guess just Jadefire and Crackle, you're playing Crane style, and you're playing Rising Mist. You could bounce between these two, I guess. Also, I use Tea of Serenity, and then I have the same talents, but, you know, this is my quote-unquote live version, where I play the Port Heal, and then I also play Tea of Plenty instead of Tea of Serenity. So the reason why I like Tea of Serenity over Tea of Plenty is because Tea of Plenty and Tea of Serenity are both very bugged. And if you ever proc a Rising Sun Kick from Tea of Plenty, which is normally the main thing that you want to do with your Thunder Focus Tea, you just kind of waste it. So, like, for example, I procced an RSK here. I would say 99% of the time when I use this RSK, will also eat a Thunder Focus Tea, which is exactly what happened. It used the buff from Tea of Plenty, and it also used the Thunder Focus Tea, which is obviously really unfortunate. And since you generally want to use your Ts on RSK, I would just prefer if I can't even proc them. So I play Tea of Serenity. So even though Tea of Serenity also is bugged, if you can't proc your Rising Sun Kick from it, you can always use your Thunder Focus Tea before you use the extra stuff from Tea of Serenity. The reason why I like this in the live build is because whenever you're kind of like randomly dying and you proc like the Expel Harm, even if you overlap like and use the extra RSKs and whatnot, having these Expel Harms for like the shield when you're trying to heal and get that shield up, it's kind of nice. So I like it better in the live build. And then obviously the port heal, and I kind of like even the slow when I port. It feels pretty good. So it's just a couple different changes there. And then the normal caster build, you play Master of Harmony with everything. You drop Crane style you drop Rushing Wind Kick, you swap to Jadefire Teachings, and you swap to Jade Empowerment. I'll talk about these builds a little bit. I think the kick build in Shuffle, from my POV, has always seemed better right now. I'm not rank 1 in Shuffle by any means, but, you know, I'm kind of high, I guess. But every time I play the Crackle build, it just feels like it's less damage overall. You can play more, like, methodically and try to avoid crowd control and try to be in a better position, because you definitely have to be more aggressive with the kick build. And I do think that there's types of damage that the kick build is better at healing through, and that the Crackle build is better than healing through. And I think sometimes, like in 3v3, the Crackle build is just straight up better than the kick build, depending on what you're fighting, and vice versa. But so far, from my POV and Shuffle, the kick build has just kind of reigned supreme. So yeah, I'll kind of talk about some of the comps where I like the Crackle build better. So there's a couple types of builds there's a couple types of like damage profiles that the kick build's really bad into it. And number one, like rot damage. The kick build is not good for handling rot damage. Unless there's a lot of pets. So like rot / no pets. So like for example, if you're fighting like UA Warlock Demo, you can handle that with kick because the kick build's really good into pets. Heavy CC teams, the kick build is not that insane into. When I play into like RMP or Feral HPAL X, I generally don't like the kick build because you have to put yourself in a situation where it's very difficult for you to LOS as well as like dealing your damage, and this Crackle build is just kind of better at dealing with it. There's also a couple comps that are just like, they just do a ton of damage, and it's just the kick build just doesn't feel like it's enough. And like one of the ones is like Fury War Ellie. Like the kick build doesn't feel like that insane into Fury Warrior Ellie. They just kind of crush. But I still play kick build like 99% of the time. But I'm just throwing this out there. If you ever fought like one of these comps and you're like, whoa, you know, I'm playing the kick build, maybe I should try the other comp or the other build, it's very likely that it can be better. The biggest downside with swapping from the kick build is you lose an honor talent. When you play Crackle and you swap from the kick build, you always have to play Zen Focus T. And immediately losing that honor talent is like the biggest turn off for me as why I don't like the build, because Port Stun is amazing, Peaceweaver is amazing, and as is, like for example, like when I fight like Fury Warrior Ellie, if I already have to play Aura Mastery, let's just say I drop this here, okay? I already have to play Aura Mastery. Now I kind of want to play Grapple into a Fury Warrior. And this makes things really awkward because like you can't drop Zen Spheres, it's way too good. But now you're super vulnerable because you have nothing to protect yourself. You have no port stun, so on and so forth. So it's a little rough to have to drop that, but it is what it is. Also, in terms of Master of Harmony, you swap like one talent, I think. When you play the Crackle, you swap this. But like when I play the hybrid build, I'm still spec'd into what is a really weird, useless talent. Master of Harmony is just straight up better than Conduit with the Celestials, just because you get the second charge of Thunder Focus T. This ability doesn't actually work. Harmonic Gambit literally does nothing, but for some reason, when I spec'd into Purified Spirit, I felt like it did such little healing, and it also drained all of my vitality, that I didn't actually think it was good. Basically, it takes all of the vitality you have and like kind of like divvies it out, but I didn't like that. So I'm literally spec'd into a dead talent. So if you guys are looking at me like, oh, whoa, he's spec'd into a talent that literally doesn't work. Even though this one works, I felt like it was doing more harm than good. It felt like it was taking healing that I wanted on someone else and just kind of like redistributing it to people that I didn't actually want it on. This doesn't work on kick, I guess I should say. It doesn't work on Rushing Wind Kick. In terms of Ring of Peace and Song of Chi-Ji, I normally play Ring of Peace. Song of Chi-Ji, you can get value. It's kind of like a trial and error, depending on like what comp you're playing. Do you need the CC? Do you have the right setup for it? You know, obviously you could always in-cap, sweep, and like go for Song, but for example, in Shuffle, most of the time I'm the only person that they can kick, or I have people on my team that are constantly like putting them on like the in-cap DR and the stun DR, and I feel like I'm spec'd in the Song of Chi-Ji a lot, and I just don't even press it. So most of the time I'm just playing ROP. But there's definitely some comps where Song of Chi-Ji is very good. definitely. In terms of honor talents, when you play kick build, you're kind of always these 3 talents unless you like want to swap for grapple. Zen Focus Tea is never worth it as kick build. It sounds really weird, but basically, when you use Zen Focus Tea, your goal is to either use Enveloping Mist with it, which are instant, therefore you do not need Aura Mastery, or you want to use your Rushing Wind Kick, which means you don't need Aura Mastery. And just to give you an idea of like how it would work, it would feel really clunky. So like if I were to use Aura Mastery here, all right, like I want to kick here, I have Aura Mastery up, I kick. Now I can start channeling, but what am I going to do? Am I going to use an Envelop and waste my other kick because it takes my T? Am I going to use a Vivify and waste my other kick because it'll take my T? So it's really awkward to use Zen Focus Tea with this build. And it's basically not worth it in my opinion. So you normally swap between like Peaceweaver or Eminence depending on what you're playing against and how you're gauging it to play Grapple Weapon. I would say that's probably really the only other one I really use. Maybe Counteract Magic in a super really weird scenario, but not likely. Healing Sphere sucks. Dematerialize, you don't really have enough talents for it. Ox Kick, you don't really have enough talents for it. Maybe if you're getting weird. Alpha Tiger, meh. Rodeo, meh. And then when you're playing the other builds, kind of, you know, same thing, except you have to figure out which one of these you want to drop when you're playing Crackle. You have to play Zen Focus Tea with Crackle. Because, you know, when you Zen Focus Tea, you cast your Crackle with it, and it's how you kind of do it, you know, without being harassed, I guess. Hero talents, there's not really too much to talk about. Master of Harmony is just better. You don't have to think about it. It's only better because it gives you the second Thunder Focus Tea. There's, like I said, there's not really much thought process there. Healing Rotation. Okay, so there's a couple things with the Healing Rotation that can be noted. Let's talk about the kick one first. I would say some of the most important things are obviously keeping your orb up. You want to make sure that you have your orb up as much as you can. You want to make sure you're kind of like kicking on CD, because kicking it increases the healing of your Renewing Mist by 100%. It will extend your HOTS by 2 seconds, so if you like can get like a Enveloping up first and then kick, it's obviously really nice because it extends the Enveloping, extends the Renewing Mist, makes the Renewing Mist tick more. And then the instant Vivifies. Like, the instant Vivifies are game changer. If you're not using them enough, or you feel like you're not using them enough, you have to use them. Like, I stare at this thing now. One of the things I want to talk to you about with Statue is, this is going to sound really weird, but Statue is actually, like, your best hot. Every few seconds, you need to just one-tap your Soothing Mist. Like, you don't even need to do anything with it, just to make sure your Statue is always ticking. This is one of the most important things in Mistweaver, because it increases the healing of your Enveloping and Renewing by 40%. It procs Peaceful Mending. And on top of that, so like Statue right now is going to be healing for, let's see how much it's ticking for. It's ticking for 59k. It looks like 59k. In PvP, I don't know if it has like a bit of a modifier or something, but it ticks for more than an Enveloping Mist. So put that into perspective for a second. Like, Soothing Mist ticks more than Enveloping Mist. That's crazy. Just to put it into perspective. Obviously, really, really, really important to make sure that's always up. When I'm doing like my Thunder Focus Tea kicks, what I'll do is like I'll kick, and then I'll soothe for 1 second, and then I'll kick, and then I'll soothe for 1 second, and then I'll kick, and I'll soothe for 1 second. So like if you're looking for something to do in between those like Thunder Focus Tea kick globals, soothing is really important, and reorbing is really important. Most of the time when you're doing those Thunder Focus Tea globals, you can't use Vivify because it'll eat your Thunder Focus Tea, like when you're waiting. So for example, right here, like, you know, if you kick and then you use Vivify, it didn't bug out this time, but it'll eat your Tea most of the time, so you want to try not to do that. So soothing and orbing are like incredibly good to do on those globals. If you're expecting to pull the miss, one thing to note is that when you're trying to reset your Rushing Wind Kick, just for like a little bit more healing, every Enveloping you do and every Renewing you do helps you reset this. So like if you're getting like, you know, shit, I don't know what to do, like I have no instant Vivifies, you know, I have no Thunder Focus Tea, what should I do in this situation? Get your Statue up, and then you could literally just like start pressing Renewing Mist over and over again. It's gonna proc a Gust and Miss, and it's gonna help you reset your Rushing Wind Kick, which is really nice. But also, just like casually, like if you can get like Envelopings out, the Enveloping Mist procs a Renewing Mist, which also helps you reset it, so that's kind of nice as well. So just, you could kind of like squeeze out more kicks through this talent right here. Like refreshing like a new Renewing Mist is good sometimes, but it can go like from Enveloping as well. So like if you're Enveloping, procs a new Renewing Mist, you'll get like the increased healing from this talent right here. But if you're not getting that, you can definitely like toss one out for the increased healing. It's like only 25% PvP, so you can get like a little bit more healing with that. So for example, like let's say you're trying to like get your like big kick burst healing out, like you can get like a statue rolling, and then you can get like your Renewing Mist up for the increased healing, get your orb up for the increased healing, and then you can go for your kicks. And then you know, it's gonna heal for a bit more because you got both of those modifiers up there. In terms of damage rotation, man, you really don't do too much in terms of damage rotation here. Like I like basically never punch and never blackout kick anymore as this build. I guess technically you could try to like blackout kick for a chance to proc a gust, but it's only a chance as opposed to a guarantee. So I normally just kind of decide to use other globals there, and then the only attack global you really have is you could crackle for like a split second just to put up Mystic Touch if you want, because for some reason the orb doesn't do it. Normally I don't really worry too much about Mystic Touch because you're kicking so often and the kick applies it, and then you also play Chi Wave, and the Chi Wave will automatically, you know, bounce to it and apply it. So it's not really like a thought process too much. And crackle doesn't really hurt people outside of this build, but yeah, I mean, the only thing you're trying to do is kick people. The more targets you hit, the more powerful it is, because you get healing based off the damage. So like you're super overpowered into pets. You do a lot of healing into pets. I mean, that's it. So it's all about like kind of like Thunder Focus Teeing and kicking. Cooldown rotation, you don't really have too much, and I wouldn't really say there's a right way to use it, but I would say generally speaking, I normally like using my shorter CDs into my bigger CDs. So I will normally use Crane, followed by Cocoon, followed by Restoral, and then like, you know, hopefully the next Crane's back up. Invoke Chi is a really, really crazy cooldown, specifically when there's AoE. If you have the time to like pre-envelop people with Chi, it's really nice, but if you can't, don't feel too bad about it. But you want to Chi before you envelop, because when you do it, they get 10% more on the envelop. So here we Chi into Thunder Focus Tea into envelop, and then we'll use a kick. And then in between your Thunder Focus Teas, like when you have the free Chi, you don't want to immediately Thunder Focus Tea again, because it'll kind of like it'll just immediately eat a charge. Like if you have a proc or whatever, like your Thunder Focus Tea will eat this. So normally in between like my Thunder Focus Teas and my Chi out, I'll use that instant enveloping. I'll use the instant Renewing Mist, and then I'll go back into Thunder Focus Teeing. So I'll do that in full speed for you in a second here. But then, yeah, obviously, you know, it's kind of like Renewal when needed, Revival when needed. Like, Restoral is usable in stun, so, you know, it's not always going to be Cocoon first. Just remember that when you put Cocoon up, it will automatically proc your hot. So, like, normally after you Cocoon, like, if you could just kick first global to extend that enveloping, it's pretty nice. But yeah, just to reiterate, I think two of the most important things on Mistweaver are keeping your spheres up, making sure your statue's going, and there's actually three things. Using the instant Vivify. Those are really important. Okay, so let's do like a full speed Chi here. We do the Renewing Mist here, we put the orb up here, we pre-statue here. Alright. Crane, into TFT, into Envelop, into Kick, into Reproc, into Rething, into Instant Vivify. We could proc another Instant Vivify here into TFT, into Remist, into Kick, into Remist, into Sphere, into Kick. And now out of this, we still have another one. So, you know, normally in this situation right here, I'll actually, like, try to wait a couple seconds so I can envelop here into another Kick here. Just to make sure I could get that extension. And we use 2 Vivifies in a row there. So, GG. In terms of mana efficiency, there's not really too much you could do besides, like, make sure you use Mana Tea, but also, like, try to make sure you use Mana Tea before your expensive abilities. Your expensive abilities are Invoke Chi and just like Enveloping Mist. So if you can use like some Mana Tea before you use those abilities, it's pretty nice, because it's not only the mana you get back, it's that it actually makes your spells reduce. So positioning as the Kickweaver spec, it's tough because you're kind of in there. Like, think of it almost like Preservation Evoker. In Shuffle, it doesn't feel as bad because I I would say it's like more of a free-for-all. People are more likely to break CCs and stuff. They're not as coordinated. Same reason why preservation's like better in shuffle than like actual threes. So you're kind of in there. The most important thing about positioning is like just make sure you're redropping your statue. You know, if all of a sudden the fight gets moved to here and your statue's not working anymore, you got to redrop your statue. Very important. And then you'll also need to like readjust your port. So no matter where you're moving on the map, just make sure you're doing both of those things. No statue is really bad. You're losing out on 40% healing from your HOTS, as well as, you know, your biggest HOT itself. Like, it's pretty bad. Imagine a Resto Druid just like, you know, decides to stop having mastery mid-fight and then like stops using like rejuve. It's no bueno. It's no bueno. Utility CC being offensive. I mean, as this build, you're kind of always offensive. You know, you're kicking on CD because your kick is actually a heal. Your healing does not work through line of sight with the kick, so don't get fooled by that. You know, you have your snap CC. You definitely want to, like, roll in, go for that when you can. I guess it's just kind of about using your mobility, kind of, like, get around. Like, getting in, getting out, porting in, porting out. Dealing with kicks, you could kind of try to fake with this build if you want. Like, the benefit of faking with this build is the ability to get the enveloping up before you actually use your Thunder Focus T. That way you can just kind of like full focus on like sending the kicks. Because if you do that, then your enveloping will last longer. So it's pretty hard to fake kicks on Mistweaver. You just gotta kind of like spam it until you get it. A lot of people actually will try to kick you a lot on like the one tick when you're just reapplying your statue. You could actually have no intention whatsoever to go for the cast, and you actually end up generating a lot of precogs, which is kind of nice. How to kite well and survive is, you know, a bit of a tough one. Definitely play the live talents that I told you about. Port stun is obviously really good. One thing that I will tell you about port stun is that you want to make sure that you kind of like have distance from your port. So when you get stunned, they have to close a gap. And then if you port while you're in a stun, it's very important to wait until you're out of that stun to report. Otherwise, you're going to get a longer CD on your port. Although I did just get a long CD on my port there, and I'm not really sure why. Oh, I'm not spec'd it. So, the talent here can now be cast if you're stunned. The cooldown's reduced by 15 seconds if you're not stunned. So, if you port and stun, and then you immediately port again while you're in stun, you're giving yourself a 45-second cooldown port. So, you want to try to greed it a little bit, to where, like, if you get stunned, you could port, and then let's just say you're stunned for 3... You're stunned for 2, you're stunned for 1, and they're already reconnecting on you. You know? Wait out that 1 second while they're on top of you, and then as soon as you get out of the stun, then you report. And that way you'll get the 30-second CD on your port here, instead of the 45-second CD. Kind of important. Other than that, I mean, you gotta try to, like, you know... I don't really use it often. Well, I mean, I guess if you're playing the live build, you get it. I don't really use Thunder Focus T for Expel Harm. It's normally when you're getting trained, like, you're just going to get the instant envelops up, and then you're just going to use a kick to try to extend it, followed by another kick. You can always get, like, a double extension, so you have the long enveloping there. Keeps your healing increased. Try to wall when you're, like, off stun DR, as well as, you know, port on CD, things like that. And then, you know, if you're still getting, like, trained, like, pretty heavily, you could try to, like, give your teammates, like, a heads up, like, yo, I want to incap this guy, or... You know, I would like to stun, like, things like that. In terms of comps, I mean, Mistweaver's a tough one. Mistweaver's like a little bit of a mix of, like, preservation in terms of the damage it could deal and the struggle it has with crowd control, but also, like, a little bit stronger defensively, because it kind of has, like, cooldowns that you can rotate. It's, like, a little bit of, like, a mix of, like, Paladin and, like, Prez. Deals damage, has CDs. Not as good at both in either regard, most likely, but... Still pretty solid overall. I mean, I think you could probably play Mistweaver with about anything, whether or not it would be better with every comp. I'm not really sure. Like, a popular comp right now is, like, Rogue Mage. Like, Mistweaver could probably work with Rogue Mage, you know what I mean? You're going to run in, you're going to get incaps, you're going to get sleeps, you're going to get stuns, and you're going to be able to do damage. You know, Shadow Priest, Feral, Holy Pally, 1 NA. Probably not a terrible healer with that either. Paladin may be better, it might give him more stability, but Mistweaver can work, so... I think Mistweaver is a pretty versatile healer right now. It's been a while since it has been the case. I think the damage that they allow you to do is definitely one of the biggest upswings for that. The caster build isn't too much different than the kick build. The only difference is that you are using your Thunder Focus T to crackle so you can heal. And then outside of that, I mean, it's all the same. So, you know, when you need healing here, what you can do, actually, is you could, like, you know, Thunder Focus Tea and then Envelop first so you get the additional healing, and then Crackle. And you should still have plenty of time with that Crackle. I think that this build is almost strictly worse, but it's also bugged. And out of PvP combat, it's supposed to hit 4 additional enemies. So 4 additional is 4 plus 1. So out of PvP combat, it hits 5 enemies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In PvP combat, it is supposed to hit 2 additional enemies, as you will see in the tooltip here. 2 additional enemies, so 1 plus 2 is 3. And it only hits 2. So it is, it should be 33% stronger, but it's not. It's 33% weaker than it should be, I should say. Because it should be 50% stronger, I think. I don't know if that's how math works, but yeah. So that's unfortunate. Hopefully that gets fixed, or maybe it's just a tooltip error. I'm not sure. So I'm going to be playing this kick build into every comp, or in every team. But specifically in the pets, it's pretty nice. I'm going to play Ring of Peace, just to try to, like, avoid fears and whatnot. But mainly going to be in this Warlock's face, just, like, shipping kicks on him. Let him get a sap here. Trying to move my statue up. This guy was like kind of late on his trap. It was weird, but so these guys are kind of just in there, which means I gotta be in there. So let's get this down here. Let's put this physical up here. There's a lot of pets, so we should be hard chilling here. It healed for a little bit less than it would have normally because they're feared and it's kind of like smart. So just gonna stun all this stuff here. Just kind of send in the kicks here. I should be able to dispel this a little faster. Full trapped. Got some hots rolling though, so it's okay. Apply this right now, and Caprice here. They don't have a range kick, so I'm just gonna spam at the moment. Might be able to kill right now. Trying to rob this guy out of LOS. It's definitely getting close to a touch of death. This howl's kind of bad for me. My port's over here. I can maybe port the trap. Could not. I have cocoon when I get out of this, so I can sit. I'm gonna cocoon here, and I'm gonna enveloping this guy here. Pick these pets for cleave. Tops him instantly. Get the debuff up. Trying to incap the priest, and then I'm gonna DR stun because it's looking like it could be a kill. Crane. Gonna kick. Gonna kick. Zerked me out of that, actually. It's kind of insane. Debuff goes back up in a second. Gonna maybe port this here. We're in a little bit of trouble right now. I think I'm gonna revive because I have a what's it called up right now. I didn't enveloping. I don't know if I would have gotten another one. Look at this dispel. Okay, we'll incap off of this, and it should be a kill with this. Spamming Touch of Death here. He's actually alive. I'm not gonna lie, I'm astonished that guy lived for that long. I'm astonished that guy. I think there was one point where I could have maybe gotten the touch there, but I kind of gave up on my global because my guy was dying. I'm not sure if I rotated my CDs properly. It felt like I did. Only thing that could have maybe been bad there was the cocoon, I think, or the revival. I think the cocoon was fine. I might have been playing a little too close to him. I could have backed off maybe a little bit and not got howled as much, but didn't really seem like that big of an issue. So I gotta play disarm here. I'm gonna play port stun though. I probably could have ported like more traps. I think I got my port down here. Alright, we got orb up here. I'll dispel this guy's fear and binding. Just gonna go ahead and send a Rop on him here. Get the warrior with it. He blade storms after the blade storm. We'll most likely send a disarm. That's our disarm here. Get our debuff up on him. Okay. Pull this here. I'm gonna cap priest in a second here. I don't know if I can spell that. I am able to spell it. This guy's just not making my life easy. I'm gonna get feared here. Looks like he stopped it. I don't really have too much to do right now, so. Done here. I need to get my orb up when I can. Disarm warrior as soon as I get the opportunity. Disarm here. Let's spell this. I need to trinket this here. Gotta revive here. I can almost save this guy. That's the power of the Chi. Cat priest here. Okay. If I can make it to my next cocoon, it'd be insane, but nah, I think he's dead here. He's got to port really soon. I gotta try to port here as well without him messing it up. I unfortunately kind of had to like waste my cocoon there. I don't know. Maybe I could have got more ROPs there, actually. I probably could have got more ROPs there. I think that's one thing I could have done better. So I'm going to drop Port Stun here and play Mistweaver instead. Still going to try and disarm Warrior. I think the disarms were good. It's possible that Sleep could be better here, but I'll probably still end up playing ROP. I might have messed my Rogue up here by putting that statue. Gonna go ahead and do this for physical damage debuff, and then I will spam my thing. I'm not gonna use my Chi yet. I kind of wanna drop him here on his Aura Mastery there. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and disarm Warrior here, and then Chi heal. Will dispel this here. I might have been a little bit too close there. Gonna Incap Priest right now. I have a lot of healing here, as well as a lot of damage. 1 mil there. Try to drag him out of that. Clash. I could have dispelled this way earlier. I'm playing too close to this Warlock. I'm getting like howled way too much, and it's pretty bad. I'm gonna try to pre-envelop here. That way I can use all my TFTs on this guy. Disarm the Warrior momentarily. Rogue here, or so, excuse me, dispel the Rogue. I have a lot of healing coming up really soon. Right now, I got a cocoon here though. Disarm here, just DR Incap. Okay. Alright, so the previous game versus the double melee, I think the thing that I didn't do the best was just, I didn't get good ROPs, so we'll try to get better ROPs this round. Disarm definitely important, but I think Port Stun's also much more important than Mistweaver here, so kind of jump in between these two talents. So we want to get the statue rolling first before we get CC'd here, because we will get sapped, so the most important thing we can do is just kind of get this statue up. I'm just going to stun DPS here, and then off of this stun, I will disarm the Warrior, and then also off of that disarm, I'll try to ROP. So, okay, I mean, he's just hitting me here. I'm going to wait till the end of the fear to port back. I will port back, but I might get refeared in the process. I kind of, okay, well, I think we ended up losing our port CD there. I'm just going to throw an early cocoon right now. ROP here. I'll just go ahead and wall. I'll health stun as well. I don't have another port stun here, so I don't have my debuff or my orbs up right now, so that's kind of bad. Okay. What the hell is this guy doing over here? Dude. Oh, honestly, I must have fat fingered my trinket this round. I genuinely, I 100% fat fingered my trinket this round. Yeah, I must have actually just trinketed literally nothing. There's a point in that game where I was taking a lot of damage, and I should have just willed the first fear. I think if I willed the first fear, that would have felt a lot better. But I felt bad like willing it. I'm kind of spaced out here, so I don't have my statue rolling for this opener, which is kind of bad. Okay. Oh, okay. This Warrior just kind of owned this rogue here. I will this here. I will. I'm just having such a tough time right now. I'm most likely going to have to port again. I'm hoping he doesn't restun me. I will port after. I'm going to have to use both of my TFTs on double enveloping here and just immediately send my next TFT. Okay. Try to Incap Priest here. He might be able to death it. Gonna ROP this guy here. Gonna put my port over here now. I don't have like any orbs out or anything, so it's like kind of awkward. I'm gonna TFT before I get silence here so I can kick while I'm in the silence. I can't really afford to keep this guy's pet alive right now, unfortunately. Just gonna stun while he's a little far away. I'm gonna try to port the fear. He's not able to port it. Gonna try to port again. Wasn't able to get it here. Let's pet's also dying, which is kind of unfortunate. Tried to revive. I'm not even sure if I'm playing the revive thing. I'm just gonna get a fear on me. Trinket here. We have Chi-Ji in a second here, so I'm gonna try to hold here. He's got a Hellstone. He's got a Hellstone. He didn't actually get it, man. I was a little greedy there. That's my fault. I wish my team would have helped me a tiny bit. I basically ported from the middle of the map to here, to here, to here. And this priest just kind of went, like, the whole distance without getting harassed. It happens, you know? If he gets, like, slowed one time, that basically doesn't happen, but, yeah, you know, what can you do? It's a little spaced out at the start of that round, too. I need to make sure that versus Outlaw Rogues, they just get across the map so quickly. I mean, I could try to be, like, kind of goofy this game and just, like, send this here so I can actually get a port down. Part of the reasons why it's rough in the opener is because I can't actually get a port down, and I can't get distance from my port. It's a good opener for us. This guy trinkets into a full fear again. Like, this warrior completely destroyed this guy again. I'm gonna disarm him now. Oh, I'm not playing it. Whoops. It's fine. So I'm gonna need to... I should be able to top him here. I'm gonna need to put my port up here. I'm trinket walling here because I don't have a port down. He was able to kind of like expose my positioning there. I was a little too slow. I didn't mean to roll there. I would have been able to get this down. I'm just like kind of fucking fumbling a little bit. Okay. I guess, I don't know what I want to do here. Trying to stun these guys here. Maybe win. Trying to knock this guy out of his port range. I'm gonna this here. Spamming the kicks. So the thing that is worrying me right now is that he has a full blind available for me. And I do not have, I want to port after. Do not have a, what's it called? Okay, this is good. I didn't have a trinket, so this howl is actually kind of good for me. As long as my guy uses something, like, I mean, if we, like, get intervened there or something, so, I mean, it happens, but, you know, we can maybe win the next one. But, yeah, not too much to talk about there. I made a mistake. I think DPS made a couple mistakes some of those rounds. Couldn't really, I guess, showcase the power of the build in this round, but this lobby, but I think the Crackle build and Shuffle just, like, it's the same thing, except you're just kind of waiting to lose. But, yeah. GG's. Fun spec. GG's. Good luck. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned. Have a good one.
That's what they call me. I promise that you'll never be lonely. Be the band, that's what they call me.